Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm going to be your host today, Greg Flamong. Jamie is not here today. He is, I guess, on a break. You know, he's a very busy person, right? Writing articles, six thoughts on a Thursday, that sort of thing. Notre Dame offered about 60 plus 2024 recruits at high school, soon to be juniors in high school. So he has to study all of those players. He has to break down all their films, and he's got to come up to speed on all those guys. So it's just going to be me today. Very big day as far as the pot of gold. And on that note, welcome, happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody who's out there. It's a big day, obviously, for the Notre Dame football program with the start of spring practice and the pot of gold thing that happens. If you've been on Twitter, you've been on social media, you've been on if you've been on irishsportsdaily.com, you've seen a ton of new offers go out to high school athletes across the country. And, if you've been on Twitter, your timeline's pretty much been flooded with it, right? Just the sheer number of, players being offered, players that you don't know, that you haven't learned about yet. And that's part of the process of, the recruiting process, right? Notre Dame wants to get a head start. Marcus Freeman said that today. They want to get a head start on, the new class, even though 2023, they're well in the swing of that, right? They got a big recruiting weekend coming up for them. And so, but you always want to get a head start on the next class. And I think a cool thing that happened today was, we saw Keon Keeley, a Notre Dame commit. We saw Peyton Bowen, a Notre Dame commit, and a lot of commits were talking about how they a year ago they received their pot of gold offers on St. Patrick's Day, and how it was a big deal for them, and now they're in the class. So that just kind of goes to show that this day is for the athletes, right? It's a very cool thing for them to be a part of. For fans, it's such an influx of names that you haven't heard because everyone is so plugged into, the 2023 class, where you're just learning almost there's names in the 2023 class that we don't really know about. We don't really know about those players in terms of, from the fan perspective. But for the players in the 2024 class, it's an event. It's an event that Notre Dame takes seriously. And so for the athletes themselves, it's a really cool thing to be a part of. It's cool to get your offer out on this day. And it was really great to see. And if you're interested in, finding out more about the individual prospects, go over to irishsportsdaily.com. There's a running live blog that Matt Freeman and Christian McCollum have been running for us over there. They've done a really good job. It's a ton of work, right? It's a ton of like I said, 60 plus offers, right? So there's a lot of background. As we speak, I know Christian is posting kind of updates on different players. He's speaking to them throughout the day, getting their thoughts on how the day went, what it meant to get the offer, and that sort of thing. So it's a really cool thing that Notre Dame has going on. And so that was, that's been going on while Notre Dame obviously opened spring practice today. And for the general fan, that's the biggest part of what today is all about, right? Just getting the team, getting your first look at the 2022 football team. And Matt Freeman was there to grab some video. So I'm just going to pull that up real quick. So here's a video that Matt shot. We're just going to go through and we'll check it out together, and I'll just talk through it. Obviously, we're going to, there's the team. Tyler Buckner leading the way. He's one of the first out, one of the first in line. Great to see Maris Leafau back out on the field, right? Looking lean, looking smooth, got that free-flowing hair that everyone loves to see. Glad to see that back on the field. He looks fired up. Chris Tyree, this is what he can do, get him out in space, right? Here's freshman Jadarian Price. Wow, he looks good. You got little Jacob Lacey and Howard Cross situation here. I think, that they said they didn't put out the depth charts and that sort of thing. We didn't see any team stuff, but you can always kind of tell who the coaches think are the top players by how they line up for reps, right? So there's Nana and Isaiah Foskey, right? So those are frontline players. That's Gobira and Tyson Ford, um, working together. So freshmen frequently work together in these drills. There's Jalen Sneed. Man, he looks like a Jalen Sneed. I thought that was a wide receiver for a second, and I thought, well, when he's in white, he's there he is working with Jack Kaiser. So we're going to see the quarterbacks. Here's Steve Angeli throwing some passes, a little kind of like an RPO type thing, quick throws. Angeli a lot smaller than I thought he would. I thought he would be a little bit bigger than he is. And Tyler Buckner, that's the quick release, man. It's just like to snap the wrist and he gets it out there, and that ball's spinning. So that's nice to see. Drew Pine, again, the midriff. You love it. You love to see that. He's always got the midriff thing going on. These are just some off-platform throws. More from Tyler Buckner. Joe Wilkins, great to see him out there. Great to see him moving around. The MCL. People thought he might be missing the spring, but he's out there. Lorenzo Styles, Matt Salerno. This is a drill that says this is like a quick look screen kind of thing. So this is going to be an RPO action, right? So the quarterbacks, they're gonna be faking the ball inside. This is going to be a run play called with a RPO screen to the outside. And that's just what they're working on from a ball handling standpoint. You're going to see Ramon Henderson here. Man, that kid covers ground. Those strides, man. He's got a really good long stride, really good. He just covers a lot of ground. Braden Lindsay. This one from Styles here. Look at this acceleration. Woohoo! I love to see that. Here's a drill for the defensive lineman, Alex Ahrensberger and Riley Mills working on a strip drill. See, there's going to be Tyson Ford and Jason Anye. So like the players around where they are in the depth chart, they work together, right? So here's Rubio and Alex Ahrensberger, right? So the ones usually work with the ones, and that's usually how it goes. So and here's Logan Diggs as we wrap it up here, looking smooth. So the ones always generally are repping with the ones, right? And that's how it goes in spring ball. Those guys are usually working together. And so that's a little trick, right? So when you see these videos, you can they're not running team. They don't want to tip their hand about who's running with who and who's, they don't want the media talking about a depth chart, right? But you can always tell, right, who's running with who. I'm just going to pull this up from David Steffens. Maris looks thicker. So he does look a little bit thicker. I think that's true. Something that is kind of like you got to be careful when you're watching these guys without pads on, because the pads have a way of slimming you down, right? So you're wearing bigger clothes, so you're wearing pads, and it's going to make everything on the body look a little bit smaller. So so that's something to keep in mind. But he did look thicker to me. I thought Braden Lindsay looked thicker. There's a picture on Irish Sports Daily. Their picture guy, he had a bunch of photos from the practice and guys going in and that sort of thing. And Tariq Bracy, I saw him. He looked thick. He looked like a guy who was ready to get going, and actually, be able to go through the rigors of maybe having a full role in the secondary. And it's good for him because, I kind of feel I kind of feel a bit silly because we went through the whole preview, especially on Wednesday. Jamie and I went through the whole preview and we were talking about who's going to play the boundary and that sort of thing. And we were all talking about Cam Hart, and we forgot that Cam Hart had shoulder surgery. And so he's probably going to be at least limited. He didn't practice today, so he's going to be at least limited in the spring. And so that's going to mean a ton of reps for Clarence Lewis and Tariq Bracy. So that's going to be huge for those guys just to get those reps. Tariq Bracy especially, right? So he's going to be able to work with the ones all the time, and that's going to be big for him. Mitchell, first of all, Sid Irish, man, what's up? How you doing? Appreciate you being here. And people are putting in comments right now and asking questions. Throw them in. I'll just something like this where we're talking about the practice and everything. Throw in questions, throw in comments, and I'll go over them. Right, like that makes it a lot easier for me. So I don't have to. I'm just talking to myself. It's easier when I'm talking to people. Um, I'm just going to say this is Mitchell Vahiluk. I hope I'm saying that right. How do you split touches with this running back room? So I think that what we've seen especially last season, they are able to split touches pretty well between two backs at least, right? Like the problem with Tyree getting hurt last year is we didn't really see that as much. And then obviously you have a workhorse like Kyron where he can do so many different things. He can do anything basically you need, right? And so that is something that they kind of leaned into last year. But I think this year, because you don't have that 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 dependable back like you had with Kyron, so that we can give him the ball and he can do so many things for us. You don't have that. I think that so splitting reps for Tyree and Diggs, and then so you have those two who I think are going to be mainstays, barring health and that sort of thing. And then it's like, how do you fit in? So I think the question is, how do you split the reps between Estime and Price? Because Price looks like ready to go, right? So if he can get the plays down and his assignments, and he can be counted on, he's not fumbling in practice, that sort of thing. Physically, he's ready to go, and we all know Estime is physically ready to go. So that's going to be a battle, I think, because there's four of them, right? So one of the roster moves that we saw today was Sibo Flemister is no longer on the roster. So, that's going to be, there's four of them now, right? With Tyree, Diggs, Estime, and Price. You have those four guys. I think that Tyree and Diggs can be counted on pretty much in any situation, right? So you can feel comfortable going into Ohio State with those guys. You need to build up that confidence with Estime and Price, obviously. But I think, in a 2-3 carry situation, you give them a couple carries and see how it goes. Maybe you extend it to a couple of more carries. I think you can find something like that with those two. And maybe more, right? Like that's time will tell on that, especially with Estime and Price. So thanks for the question, Mitchell. I appreciate that. Sid Irish, how big does Joshua Burnham look? You put it on here a little bit lower. He's a big kid. He's looks good. And you know what? I thought Junior Tuihalamaka looked good too, just from a physical standpoint, right? Ziegler looks a little small. It's the same with Snead, frankly. Snead did not look like a big guy, but he moves. He sure does move really well. And so, at least find a role for him somewhere on special teams. And I think as the spring goes, they're always going to be in the weight room, and especially in the summer with Snead, he's going to be hitting the weights. He's going to put on at least probably 10 pounds. Makes him more of a factor of like trying to get on the field, but look at him moving around. It looked really good. I was impressed with the way he looked. And Mitchell says, yeah, Junior looked like a monster. Yeah, he did. So we're on the same page there. I'm curious what everyone has to say about the kind of let me know in the comments, like how you took in the Marcus Freeman press conference, because it's such a I guess you go from Brian Kelly. Everyone's very used to the way Brian Kelly spoke at press conferences, right? And one thing that he was able to do that I think we all took for granted, he was very smooth with everything. He always had that air of being in control of what he wanted to say, and getting the right message out, I guess, about things. And that goes to kind of the politician part of the way that he is and that sort of thing. But Freeman is not like that, and I'm not saying it's like a negative. It's just something that especially me, like we have to get used to, because like Freeman will just come out and say like I'm not totally versed in something, right? So like I'm not totally versed in, like he's talking about like the drills on offense, right? And it's like I think the quarterback drills are fun, so I'm going to watch them, right? And it's like it's a fun it's a fun kind of comment, right? Like it's a moment of honesty and just kind of like vulnerability that I guess speaks to his a self-awareness and b his humility as a person, where he's okay to admit, like, I'm. He just said today, I'm not a quarterback guru, right? And so, it's just interesting to kind of have to adjust to that. Um, Michael Sinot or Sino or I'm not sure how to say that, but Michael said seems open to admitting he's still figuring things out. Absolutely, like he absolutely has no problem saying I'm still figuring out as I go. Right, like Eric Hansen asked him today, like how are you how where are you gonna stand during the drills? And he's like, I don't know, like I'm just kind of moving around right now, right? So he doesn't, you know, I think we wonder how he's going to handle game days and that sort of thing, like on the regular. He doesn't know, like, he's not totally sure where he's going to be standing. Sinnott, cool, Sinnott. Thank you, Michael. He's not sure where he's going to be standing in practice. So I think it's kind of refreshing to hear from an honesty standpoint. He's always going to tell you like where he is and where his head is at. My Irish ancestors hated spelling. That's funny. Happy St. Patrick's Day. So yeah, so he's an open book on that front, and it is what it is, and I think that's fine. Juwan Lee, thanks for being here. Said all the quarterbacks look good for the most part. Yeah, I mean they should, right? And let's not take it for granted now, because we saw when they were supposed to look good, with Brandon, right? That just throwing the ball into nets and stuff, and that didn't go so well. So hey, let's take that for what it is. But yeah, they all did look good. They all looked fine. Obviously, there's higher levels that they need to reach, but that's cool. You know what? And one thing we didn't get, and I'm glad Juwan you brought that up because it reminded me of something. So last year we got all those 3-minute videos, right? That everybody liked, right? It was 3 minutes of just highlights. Doesn't seem like we're going to get those this year, which really hurts my feelings. But those aren't coming. But there a 30-second clip, and there's one throw where Tyler Buckner hits Michael Mayer on a corner route for a touchdown. And look, it's one play, and it's a team situation. The team is all there, and he hits him, and it's a touchdown. So it's good to see that, right? It's good to see that he's making plays like that in practice. And yeah, Michael, regarding the captains, right? So Freeman said, I'm not really sure how I want to pick the captains, right? And that's okay, right? He doesn't need to know that. And Mitchell says here, I know the word genuine gets thrown out a lot with Marcus Freeman, but that's exactly what I thought. Kelly was very political. Don't show your cards. Freeman cards are out on the table. Refreshing. And I think as far as his comments go, I think that's true. Absolutely. Right. It's interesting how it's cards out on the table with the comments, but less so with practice access in the team so far. We'll see if that changes, right? Who knows? But it's his first spring, and he needs to figure out how much he wants to kind of let the media see. He's not sure what he wants, and I guess it's fine, right? It's going to have to be, but as far as the press conference comments, I believe that's absolutely true. Justin Knox, what's up, man? This is a old Valhalla guy. Good to see you, man. Good to see Tariq hanging in there. His skill set and experience were important for the depth in the secondary. I watched Mickey play in person at Centennial. He's going to push that field corner right away. I agree with you. I just think Mickey he's got like the attitude. He has the confidence. He has that when you play out here, when I say out here, I'm in Southern California, just like Justin. When you play out here, you go against dudes, and that can either make you a bit tentative, or sometimes it doesn't harden you like you want. And I think with Jaden, it absolutely has. It did harden him. We've heard a ton of good comments about Jaden Mickey from the older guys. Like I remember Josh Lugg was talking about how fast he was working in the winter workouts and that sort of thing. He's a real fast guy. And he's listed at 5'11", 177, which is the same size as Tariq Bracy right now. So I don't think there's a physical problem. it's just a matter of being able to, like with any freshman, right? Picking up the speed of the game, picking up the different concepts, being able to mentally handle the load of being a player. But that's a really good this is a really good comment from Justin. I absolutely agree. So that's a good one. All right, let me see. We've got Coogan in street clothes is concerning the Patterson injury. Yeah, that's not what you want. No, that's not what you're looking for. You don't want to see that. I did see a couple of reps with, I think it was 68, and I think unless numbers have been changed, that's Carmody. So Carmody might have been working at center. Maybe it was just for a drill. I don't know, but I don't know why you would do that. So we're gonna have to check in on that. But it's definitely something to monitor. So I agree with Michael in that comment. What's up, Brendan? Thanks for being here, buddy. With Estime last year and Price this year, it's wild how put together these high school kids are coming in. Correct. I don't understand that. I think if you've played enough high school football, you come around guys like this. But it's like, I feel bad for some of these high school kids because you don't sign up to play with against someone like Audric Estime or Jadarian. Well, maybe you do in Texas, but where Estime was in New Jersey, like it's like, man, I just want to play like normal football, and then some guy like Audric Estime comes up and he's a 220-pound sprinter who's like leaping over people and that sort of thing. So let it be written. Touche, Justin. Touche. But yeah, so these guys, they're fit. They look good. And now it's just a matter of, getting the reps in practice, getting it over and over again. So that's a good one. Let's see. Another one from Justin. Lug being 100% goes towards me predicting the O-line as a Joe Moore finalist this season. Yeah, we'll see with Lug. And I don't know. I mean, maybe Stan can unlock something in him that hasn't been unlocked before. Maybe he's better at guard. Maybe that's a better fit for him. Maybe playing next to someone like Blake Fisher, maybe that is something that he needs, right? So that could be a good thing for him. The Patterson thing really, really throws the Joe Moore stuff into like limbo, right? Because you don't know how he's going to come back. We don't know who his replacement is. We don't know how any of that's going to work. It was one thing when it was like you knew you had the two tackles and then you had Jarrett Patterson in the middle and then you fit around. Now it's just all kind of in flux. It's kind of a big question. So I like where your head's at as far as like the potential of these guys, but we got to see how it turns out with Patterson and all those things. But not unreasonable. Let's see, Michael. How did Colsey look? He looked pretty good. As far as his build, right? Like it was. Because we're all looking at the same thing, right? So he looked fine. Looked like he was moving well. That's gonna be one where I want to hear what Matt has to say when he gets a full practice, right? Let's see how that goes, right? Because I don't know what the situation with Cam Hart, whether he's going to be out there or not. I don't love like Colsey is like 5th or 6th in line, right, for the receiver drills. So like when you watch the receiver drills, you see Styles first, right? You're seeing Wilkins first, you're seeing Lindsey first, you're seeing all those guys first, and then Colsey's kind of near the 5th or 6th receiver, right? And that's kind of how it lines up, right? So let's see if he can move into the top group there. But it's one thing, right? Like it's not that today isn't definitive by any means. It's just kind of first impressions. So today isn't a good way to judge Colsey. Sid Iris says Colsey look lean, look quicker. Okay, that's your impression. So that's fine, no problem. Juwan Lee, can't wait to see how Stuckey develops the receivers. Yeah, they were doing some new stuff. There's some videos out there with Stuckey throwing to the receivers. And Stuckey looked like he had an arm on his own. There was he was throwing some routes to those guys, and it's like, and Stuckey might have a pretty good arm. Maybe we could get him some quarterback reps. So, but yeah, that's going to be a big one. That's going to be a big thing to track throughout the spring. I think a lot of people are excited about Aiden Gobira. He was skinny. He does need to put on weight. I think everyone knew that, but twitchy guy. And I think all those freshmen have a ton of confidence. So that was something that we've kind of noticed. Pops McGee in the house. Thank you, Pops. Thank you for coming in. You're at all of the chats, and that's we appreciate that. Who do you predict to start at X, W, and Z against OSU? So if I had to guess right this second, I would say I think Styles and Lindsay are pretty locked, barring injury and that sort of thing. And then it's just a matter of what they want to do. Like, where is Avery Davis? Is Avery Davis ready to go? When does he get back? Is he able to go through full spring or not full spring, full fall? Is he able to get there in the summer? Is he able to? When does he get to start practicing? I think that is the key as far as that goes. So if Avery Davis is available, I think that they'll put Styles in the boundary. I think they'll put Lindsay to the field, and I think they'll put Davis in the slot. If Davis is not ready to go, then I think they'll put Styles in the slot. Lindsay will stay in the field, and then it'll be up for grabs between Colsey and remember Tobias Merriweather's coming along, so he's waiting. He's chomping at the bit to get out there, and let's see what Jaden Thomas has too. So, and if that's not the situation, then you got Michael Mayer. You can put Michael Mayer out there too. So, that's going to be a good thing, right? So, X, Y, like if they don't feel confident in the boundary, then you could just do, a lot of 2 tight end stuff, right? You could just do a lot of 12, and then you could have, Mitchell Evans or Kevin Ballman with Mayer, and then you could just have Lindsay and Styles out there. Because another part of that too is like you could put Chris Tyree in the slot, right? So if you don't feel good about your boundary receiver with 3 wideouts, well then just have it be Tyree or have it be another tight end, something like that. So, but yeah, a lot depends on Avery Davis there. Michael asking, any thoughts on the sophomore DBs? Riley Barnes. Not a ton of thoughts, just based on what happened today. Other than it's a big one for them, right? And that I think Barnes, they had him on the field last year. They had him, special teams and that sort of thing. They didn't put him out there at corner. He got in the game against Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl, but that was because something happened with Cam for 3 plays. They took out Cam real quick. They threw in Barnes. As soon as Cam was good, they put him back in. So that's not a thing where they scheduled him to come in. It was more of an emergency situation. But they had Barnes in on special teams, on the punt team and that sort of thing. So he was blocking the gunners. So they trusted him to do that, right? So he was at least close, right? Close to the field in that regard. Philip Riley, again, he was kind of in the same situation, honestly. They had him in the same role against Florida State. Didn't look that great. And then he kind of just lost that job, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, to KJ Wallace and then Brian Barnes. So big one for them. Barnes is more of just like, is he athletic enough to play corner? I think is the big thing, because physically he looks great, right? And if you can't, like, he's the type of athlete where you got to find a spot for him somewhere, because physically he looks really good, right? He's thick, he's tall, rangy, long. So you got to find a role for him. Riley is just like, are you good enough to stick with these guys? Like, athletic enough, not good enough, but athletic enough. Can you run well enough to stick with these guys in the slot to the field and that sort of thing? It doesn't look like a boundary. So it's going to be a really big spring. Who starts next to Joseph from Justin? I think it's going to be Ramon Henderson. Yeah. And you said it too. You said Ramon Henderson and Watts. I love Watts. I think there's going to be a 3-man rotation there. I really do. I don't want to shortchange Justin Walters either, because that's a rising freshman. He's still a freshman academically, or maybe he's not because he was an early enrollee. But regardless, he's just played the 1 year, so we want to see him kind of take that next step because he looked good last spring. So let's see if he can carry that over. But for the top three, I think it's going to be Henderson and Watts. I think, and I love those guys. Like, they're all long, good athletes, really good runner. They can turn and run. We know Henderson could turn and run. He was a 100-meter guy. Watts, former receiver, so we know those guys can find the ball. So that's I'm really excited about the safeties there. Yeah, Sid Irish, I agree with you. We need Evans or Ballman step up at tight end. Absolutely. I think it's a big part of the about the team and what they can do offensively. And we do need to see that. Michael said he saw a pic of Bauman from spring drills. Dude looks huge. He's a big boy, right? Does he have the, he was hurt last year, right? So strength wise, where is he at? Speed wise, where is he at? Because this was a broken leg, right? So there's not a lot of running there. So, where are you at with your speed? Where are you at with your agility and that sort of thing? So, but he does look like a big guy. Makes me think DJ might move along since Houston is probably in front of him. I don't know. Here's the thing. I mean, I don't know how the coaches feel, right? Like, who is to say how the coaches feel about that sort of thing? For me, DJ has just been, objectively speaking, DJ has just been more productive than Houston has been, right? He's made more plays. He's given up more plays, so that's a factor, right? Houston gave up the long one against Florida State. DJ's got some pretty high-profile missed tackles, but he does have the ball production, right? He's had some interceptions where he's been in the right place at the right time, and that's part of being a safety. He made a play against North Carolina, which is a nice play, right? It was kind of a misread by Howell, but he's there, right? So that matters for something, in my opinion. So I mean, for me, I think DJ has been the more useful player, to put it like that. But as far as where they're going to, how that's going to shake out, we'll see. But I do think there's a chance that at least one of them decides to look elsewhere after this year, given what's possibly in front of them and the youth too, because there's a lot of youngsters who could pass them up. Pop says, let's see. I coached against Drew Pine in high school. He beat us in a championship. I was the D-line coach for Windsor Warriors. Yeah, he was a great high school player. He looked good. I liked his film, right? He looked real good. Scrappy now, like he's the same kind of player, right? Super scrappy, super just competitive. Really good anticipation. I've always liked his anticipation when he knows where he wants to go with the ball. He anticipates really well. Throws a good ball. It's just a matter of like how good, how can his arm hold up? Can he hold up physically? I think that's the big question for me. But yeah, he's a good football player. I like him a lot. A lot of people think he might be a transfer candidate. I don't really see that, just because why would you? He doesn't gain anything by leaving. He could stay at Notre Dame, get his degree, and have 3 years left, right? Because last year didn't count because he didn't play enough games, and the year before didn't count because of COVID. So he has, 4 years left. So he could have 3 years left after this year. So it looks like I think him sticking around, get his degree, go somewhere else and play, that would make a lot of sense if he wants to go that route. Doesn't make sense to do it now, in my opinion. DJ over Houston. I can't remember a single Houston highlight outside of getting dragged against Michigan. Well, the Michigan game, I don't remember that. No, 2019. I think the thing for Houston is he is, generally speaking, assignment correct. Even the play he gave up against Florida State, like, that is a physical beat. He it's not like he was not knowing where to go or anything like that. Like, that was a physical, I got outrun, and it happens, right? Like, it happened a ton to Clarence Lewis, and he, stayed out there, right? So I think for the problem for Houston is that it's a lot of players get beat sometimes. Sean Crawford got beat a good amount, right? Kavari Russell, like we can go over so many defensive backs to get beat. The difference is that there's the playmaking on the other side of that, right? So you're making plays that offset the plays that you give up. And Houston hasn't done that yet. That's the thing. And I think he's aware of that. He's mentioned that before. So it's not like it's a big secret. He knows he has to get better in that area, but I think he's he's at least got assignment correct. He's not blowing coverages, right? He's not turning people loose. And that's a big deal. Like, and that's what keeps him on the field. Coaches want to know you are going to do what you're supposed to do. You're going to be where you're supposed to be. He doesn't give up plays because he turns someone loose, right? And we've seen it before from players who are frankly better than him, and he will play over them. I mean, he doesn't because they're not on the campus anymore, but the point is, it's coaches want to know you're going to be where you're supposed to be. You're going to do the defense that I call, and that's what keeps him out there. So, that's the case for Houston. You know what? I'm going to put this up. Jalen Ramsey, exactly, got beat, right? But there's playmaking on the other end. So, everyone gets beat. You gotta be a playmaker though. That's the biggest part. Who starts at will, middle, and Rover at Ohio State? Taking injuries out of the equation, is it the same three guys when they kick off against USC? I'll say no, just because. I mean, how do you predict the injury piece, right? Like Maris broke his leg. I don't even like it was a freak accident, right? So it's just you don't know. Will middle. Man, that's hard. I'll predict is Marist. I'll predict. You know what? Okay, I'll say Marist. I'll say Marist at will. I'll say Kaiser at Rover and Bertrand at Mike, I guess. I don't know. It's such a cop-out answer, but I honestly don't know. It's hard. It's so much. We ask me after the spring. I'm gonna try to do these as much as I can when there's enough information to talk about. But ask me after the spring. We'll talk about it then. Didn't see any indie drills. All right, let's see. I didn't see any indie drills from the D line. Who is getting reps at the field rush end? Mills. So, I didn't see that per se, but when Freeman spoke to the media, he referenced Nana, he mentioned Mills, and he mentioned Aaronsberger. Those are the three that I think he said. He said Nana, Riley, and Alex, referring to Aaronsberger. That's who he mentioned. So I'll say those are the three. And then we'll kind of, we'll just kind of make assumptions from there. I think that's where they're going to go. I think that pretty makes it seem like Justin Adamola is going to stay at Viper, which he probably should, just because you want a quality backup behind Foskey. But I would say, I think at least two of them. I think two will get the bulk of the work. And if I had to guess right now, I would say it would be Mills, and I would say it would be Nana. So we've heard a lot of good things about Nana in the offseason. Let's see if that translates to the field. But that was kind of what Freeman alluded to. New question from Ryan Shamil. Thoughts on the impact JD Bertrand will make? Yeah, I hope he's at Mike. It seems like he's at Mike. And if he is, then I think that's a better spot for him. I think it's better for him to be next to someone like Marist, who is going to do a bulk of the blitzing and that sort of thing. I think you talk about the linemen having to deal with, a lot of the time it's linemen having to deal with the inside guys, the D tackles, right? So the Howard Crosses and the Jacob Lacey's and the Gabriel Rubio's and Aiden Keanu Inez and that sort of thing, right? And that's always important. But I think with Marist in there, he's such a blitzing threat. He's such a pass rushing threat that the line will be consumed with kind of what he's doing and where he's at. And I think that frees up Bertrand to do the things that he's best at, right? And I think you don't have to be as good of an athlete in the middle as it kind of requires for the will, right? Like we saw so many times with Bertrand's out in space, and that's what you want. That's what you want Maris doing. That's what you want Prince Collie doing, right? Like those guys, like the former Rovers who move inside. Like that's what you want. You don't want someone like JD who's like better in tighter quarters, you know, that sort of way, right? And so that's why you don't see Drew White playing the will, right? Because there's just not those type of athletes. So that's why I see JD Bertrand doing. It's like get him inside, let him, but don't make him go out in space. Don't use him as like a playmaker, blitzing the quarterback and that sort of thing. Let Maris do that, and then let him go make plays that way. David Solomon. I'm predicting both Gobira and Ford are going to play this year and play a lot. I mean, it would be, they would have to pass a lot of quality football players for that to happen, especially Gobira. I mean, you're talking about if he can replace the production of Justin Adamalola or something like that, then you're talking about like a really good football player. Not saying it's possible, not possible because it is, but you're talking about them passing really good football players. And that's the good thing about the defensive line is they got a lot of talent there. So there's, good players, but I'm not saying it can't happen. Just saying, they're going to have to pass a lot of good players. Yeah. And whoops. And Sid Irish says, Aiden will need to add some weight. Ford looks like a veteran big kid. So I agree with that. Right. The variety of offenses. Yeah, then that's another part too. That's a great point that Michael's making here is like, you're playing different kind of teams, right? Like what kind of formation is Notre Dame going to come out in against Ohio State? You just don't know. It's hard to say. And what kind of role? I don't know where they're going to put Botelho. I think that for me, like there's no clarity on that today. I really want to know what their plan is for him. And he's such a chess piece that we don't know what they're doing with yet. So it's just a big question mark. So, just to kind of wrap up here, I'm going to wrap up. I appreciate everyone for coming in. It's really good. I appreciate you guys and all these questions. It's like really made it a good time. I was kind of nervous about like doing this by myself. Like I've never like done it before. Now I'm doing a live show. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in. I really like doing this. The reason that I wanted to, come on Irish Sports Daily and do videos like this is because I really enjoy talking about the team. I love talking about, the little videos they give us, right? Just a little bit of evidence that they give us. And then I can go, talk for 45 minutes about it. So I appreciate that. Oh, David, David, was that you and on the message board? So David on the Irish Sports Daily message board, he was talking about Deshaun Watson, and he was checking on whether or not he was going to go to the Falcons. So you're ATL Irish, I assume, on the message board. So thanks for hanging out in here. I really appreciate that, Michael. I appreciate these comments as well. Hidden Hustle Blitz, huge addition to ISD. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. And I've never talked about this, but Hit and Hustle was something that my high school coach used to say. That's where I got it from. My high school coach used to talk about Hit and Hustle all the time. It's like, in the film room, he would say, that's Hit and Hustle, or, make plays, hit and hustle. It was always this like a big mantra that they always used to do. So I brought it to Twitter when I would do the videos with, pointing at the screen and that sort of thing. I would say hit and hustle. So it's always been in my mind. So that's where we got the name from. So, but Michael, I really appreciate those comments. That's very nice of you to say. So, yeah, so we'll see. It's when Notre Dame puts out enough information to, for us to do a show like this, I'm going to try to do it. Jamie and I will always have our show. And that's going to stay constant. But like I said at the top, like Jamie's super busy. Like he's writing and he's evaluating. And he's always, doing projects and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to come on and, put something out for people who, who like to talk about the team and who like to consume, content like that. So once again, I really appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're a first time viewer, anything like that, hit the subscribe button. We're going to keep putting out content like this as much as we can. As soon as we get video, we can break down film and that sort of thing. That's kind of our niche, I guess I should say. For junkies, yeah, that's right, Michael. We're junkies out here. we're the film junkies, and that's what we do. So I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Head over to irisportsdaily.com one more time. They got so much information out there. Like Matt Christian, they're doing such a great job today. Jamie's got a ton of stuff out. He posted his 6 thoughts on a Thursday, which is always really good. Everyone should tune in for that. Stay locked in with us. I appreciate everyone here one more time, and we will talk to you soon.